Hands down, this is the biggest mistake that I see homeschoolers make. I made it. And in our homeschool coaching, Homeschooling Olympians, when I'm talking to new homeschoolers or frustrated homeschoolers, hands down, they always, when I ask them this question, they go, huh, that's a good question. The challenge with homeschooling is not that you don't have a degree, that you've chosen the wrong curriculum, that you don't have Ticonderoga pencils or amazing lined paper or laptops or fast internet. None of that stuff matters. It, did you hear me? Did I say that too fast? None of that stuff matters. So, what, Becky, is the biggest homeschool mistake that people make? Now, I see this every day. I hear this every day. In our coaching program, I have to remind our clients all the time that this is the one thing that you have to have in order to homeschool successfully. Any guesses? Okay, first of all, my name is Becky Saylor. My husband and I homeschooled our 5 sons. Yes, that's as crazy as it sounds. Our 5 sons for 25 years. And we've been coaching homeschoolers for well over a decade. And I've taught in a classroom. I tutor public school kids and private school kids and homeschool kids. I mentor and coach homeschool families. And so, with that perspective, having feelers into all the different areas of education, I can tell you unequivocally, that word's really hard to say. I can tell you without a doubt that this is the single biggest mistake that homeschoolers make. So I want to take you back to the point where I recognized that I had made this critical mistake. Our kids were younger. We were, goodness, had a new baby or a toddler, and then we were at a stage where I thought I would be super homeschool mom and teach 4 different levels of curriculum. It was the season that I tried box curriculum, and I thought I would do 4 different levels because I had 4 different age kids that were going to be taught. And I can still picture it in my mind. I can still see the piles of curriculum sitting on my kitchen table. And the boys were running around playing in the backyard. And my husband was getting ready to go to work. And he comes out, and I'm sitting in the kitchen and I am in tears. He's like, Becky, why are you crying? And I said, I can't do it. There is no way I can teach all of the boys their own specific grades at the same time and run the house and cook the meals. It's too much. I don't even know where to start. And I tell this story many different ways, but it the same thing happened in all of my versions of the story. My husband lovingly pushes the curriculum aside and pours me a cup of coffee because at the time I was a coffeeaholic. So he pours me a cup of coffee and he hands it to me. He says, breathe. He said, Becky, by the time our kids graduate high school, what do we want them to know? What do we want them to have learned? I can still feel it. I went, huh, that's a really good question. And I don't know the answer. And he said, let's start there. Let's figure out what our master homeschool goals are. So here's the mistake that I see homeschoolers make all the time. And it started with me. I would never have been able to call this as clearly as I do if I hadn't made the same mistake myself. And that is, it's the same with homeschool. It's the same with private school. It's the same with public school. It's the same with tutors. If you don't have a master set of teaching goals, then you're going you might get a lot done, but you might actually go a little bit insane along the way because you have no way to measure whether or not you're actually getting it done. Are you actually training up your kids in the way they should go? Do they actually love still being at home? So here's the question for you. And yes, we do this. We in the 3 stages of Homeschool Masterclass that's below that's free. Takes about an hour to run through. I talk about the necessity of homeschool goals. In our coaching program, we dedicate an entire module in our masterclass to establishing your homeschool goals. It's so critical. So, how would you answer the question? If you're like 99.4% of the people that I've ever talked to, you're probably saying, wow, I actually have no idea what our homeschool goals are. I've honestly only talked to two homeschoolers in my career as a coach that knew what they were shooting for. Everybody else was like, well, grade 5 this curriculum, or I don't know, maybe this much, like they measure it completely wrong. So here let me give you an idea of what our master homeschool goals are so that you can understand what I'm saying. They've never changed since that day with the cup of coffee, however long it took us to boil them down. I think it took like a couple days to just really think about it. What are our goals? Our first goal was that we would share our faith with our kids, with our boys, every day in everything that we did. That it wouldn't be just a separate thing that we did on Sunday, but it would be woven into everything that we do. That's paramount for us. It's foundation upon which we raised our children upon. So faith was the first thing. The second thing was that we decided that our children would know their basic math facts by the time they graduated high school, the stuff they were going to use, the add, subtract, multiply, divide, fractions, decimals, percentages, measurements, that kind of stuff. And remind me, I'll circle back about that. Our third goal was that we would marinate our children in excellent literature, that they wouldn't do a lot with stories except fall in love with reading. Wouldn't it be amazing if by the time your kids graduate high school, they love to read? Wouldn't that be amazing? Okay, so faith, math, marinated in story. Our last goal is that by the time our kids graduate high school, they would be excellent communicators, both in written form and orally in front of other people. So, what does that do for you if you have and everybody's goals are going to be slightly different. I always recommend that people at least consider our goals as a scaffolding, a starting point, and then you can tweak it from there. But how does that set you free in homeschooling? How does that set you free in a public classroom if you're teaching or if you're a private tutor? If I know that my goal is that by the time my student graduates high school, they're going to know their basic math facts. Then when I'm looking at my 9-year-old and they're struggling with a math lesson, I am free to put it away and to figure out a different way or a different time to circle back and address that topic. Because, see, there's zero lesson in any lesson plan, in any curriculum that is make or break your child's education. It just doesn't exist. Instead, if you're focusing on the goal, you now have the ability to look at a lesson and to ask yourself, does this fit? Is this going to help my child fall in love with reading, become an excellent writer, become an excellent oral communicator, to understand their basic math facts? So, where are you? Do you have your master homeschool goals? It's okay if you don't, because again, I've been doing this a long time and most people have not thought about this. Why? Because there's so much noise out there. People are very quick to stamp things like grade levels on children when it's not the grade level that matters. It's how they learn that matters. It's how they are connected with the people around them, how they communicate with the people around them. Do they feel valued? Do they feel loved? Are they able to be taught in a way that they receive the information? That's the most important stuff, right? It has nothing to do with lesson 47 in any textbook anywhere. So, master homeschool goals. Are you like me way back in the day where I had no clue what I was aiming for? Hey, I can tell you I'm an archer, like a bow and arrow archer. And I can tell you it would not be wise for me to take my bow and just to randomly shoot an arrow somewhere into outer space, because that would not be smart. It also means that I have no way to measure my progress. But if I have a target and I can see the bullseye and then I let an arrow fly, I can tell whether or not I'm headed in the right direction. And that's what your master homeschool goals will do for you. So if you want to know more about this, there's going to be a video that pops up around here somewhere where I talk more in depth about master homeschool goals. You can also learn more about um, the 3 stages of homeschooling in that free masterclass. And yeah, I will see you next time. Have a great day. And let me know, do you have your master homeschool goals done? It's important. So if you don't, push your curriculum aside, let your kids play outside, and spend the next couple days. Sometimes it takes a week or two for you to figure out where you're headed, but take the time to establish those goals and make them short and memorable. You only need 4 to 6 master homeschool goals. See you next time.